Chapter 10. Scene 1. Second place. Elijah sat quietly on the bench in front of his locker. It was his senior year at the Trinity Christian University and his last chance to be at the top of the heap. "I've got to do better than that son of a bitch," Elijah mumbled with a determined scowl and clenched fists. "How's it going, Eli?" The voice was like metal dragged across asphalt. "Is that what you're going to call me this year, Isaac?" "I haven't decided yet, but the team will have a meeting to confirm it. You will be able to submit your own suggestions if you want. My name is Elijah. Nothing else. It has never been anything else. So, maybe just for novelty, just go with Elijah," he said sarcastically. "That's no fun. You deserve a nickname. After all, you're the number 2 scorer on the team 2 years in a row. You even got votes for MVP last year, and one of them was mine." Elijah tried to subdue his resentment, but it seeped through. He saw the compliment as meaningless. Isaac could afford to be magnanimous. Then a bitter tone took control as Elijah said, "You were a cinch to get it." A resentful thought followed, a little too loud. "You always are." Isaac let the bitterness melt before it got close to him. He had a knack for being unflustered by snide, biting, harsh remarks. The remarks only confirmed people were jealous because he was superior. Isaac was more than confident. Uncertainty was not a part of his nature. He never doubted he would succeed. He considered success a given. If anyone tried to put doubt in his mind, it never penetrated. Thus, Elijah's resentfulness could not have the power he wished. Elijah had worked on his soccer skills all summer, and the coach commented on it several times. But what was galling was Isaac's reaction. He constantly praised Elijah and reveled in his improved play. Elijah wanted Isaac to be jealous, to resent him, to criticize him, but Isaac seemed pleased, happy for Elijah. Near the end of one practice, after Elijah scored on a pass from Isaac, Isaac ran up to Elijah. "Nice score. We're going to be great this year. With you and me playing like this, we're going to kick some serious, but be prepared. I'm going to be looking for you, so be ready to fins the back of the net." After the team had showered and dressed, Isaac patted Elijah on the back. "Great practice, Elijah. See you tomorrow." Elijah glared at Isaac's back as he left the locker room. Soothing himself, he muttered, "Who does he think he's kidding? He's setting me up just to knock me down. I'm not falling for it. So, keep your bullshit to yourself." Scene 2. Championship game. On the season went with Elijah, expecting Isaac to turn into the villain he had pictured, had planned for, and had wished for. Conquering an evil nemesis would be a greater, sweeter accomplishment. Then the hollowness Elijah felt from Isaac's success would be filled with pleasure. He was certain. But Isaac didn't become that villain. As the season rolled along, Elijah had to twist events increasingly into dastardly incidents of purposeful sabotage committed by Isaac. However, he couldn't twist them enough, and other teammates were not supporting his contention. So he ceased to voice his accusations, making it an internal dialogue instead. That became increasingly more difficult. It took everything Elijah could muster to continue resenting Isaac. The season was not supporting his thesis. Too many of Elijah's goals came from Isaac's selfless passes. Elijah had a dilemma. If he antagonized Isaac, he thought Isaac might stop looking to him. Elijah was leading the team in goals for the first time, and he wanted that honor. So, while he desperately wanted to criticize Isaac, he couldn't risk it. So, as the season progressed, Elijah hid his intense resentment and jealousy, and he felt that he was succeeding. Only Elijah knew what was in his own heart and mind. He took pride that he had hidden his true feelings. That Isaac didn't know how he really felt gave Elijah a feeling of power. He had deceived him, and it was gratifying. Elijah was praised by the coaches, his teammates, and even some students. The greatest praise came from Isaac, who had begun acting as if Elijah was a true friend. Elijah did what he had done many times against signs of weakness. He built a wall to resist Isaac's incursion into Elijah's tightly held world. After each practice, and especially after each game, Elijah returned to the dorm, propped himself up in his bed, and replayed the practices and games, looking for signs that Isaac thwarted Elijah's efforts, and signs that Isaac was a villain. If necessary, he invented them. By the day of the championship game against the University of Ohio Christian, Elijah could no longer readily create his nemesis. It became increasingly hard to resist seeing Isaac as a good teammate. Although he felt it showed his weakness, he would set it aside one last time for the game, for the team. The game was what everyone expected it to be, advertised as the battle in the trenches. Several yellow cards, needless contact, missed easy shots on goal, and a lot of intense face-to-face confrontations with clenched fists and misty flying spittle was a large part of the game. As the clock approached the end of play, the score was tied at 3-all and a shootout was on everyone's mind. With the end of regulation time approaching rapidly, an Ohio Christian player beat his player and was sprinting down the left side. A Trinity University defender rushed to the player. He made a clean slide tackle, knocking the ball toward the sideline. Isaac rushed to the ball and sent it upfield. As Elijah got to the ball, two Ohio Christian players closed in on him. He sent the ball across to Isaac, who had one player between him and the goalie. Elijah sprinted between the two players. When he reached the penalty area, one player, who was in front of Isaac, and the goalie, stood between Elijah and the goal. He was open, free, and not offside. Isaac looked over at him. He crossed up the defender by kicking the ball between the defender's legs. As the defender glanced down, Isaac went around him. Isaac kicked the ball across to Elijah, who had a clear shot on goal. He took the shot. The ball headed to the upper right corner. It struck the joint of the right post and crossbar. Isaac, who was still at full sprint, leaped and headed the ball into the left side of the net. After advancing the ball downfield, Elijah intercepted a pass and kicked the ball back toward his goal. Isaac let the ball bounce and dribbled it to his goalie. Time was called. Elijah leapt into the air. By the time he came down, he recognized his scoring failure and felt Isaac's success. He stopped, and while the players rushed to each other, Elijah had become despondent. As the celebration settled down, Isaac saw Elijah and waved him over. Elijah slowly walked to the team. Isaac rushed to him. All Elijah could think was he always wins. Still, Elijah managed a fairly convincing celebration, but Isaac could sense that Elijah was disappointed. After the teams shook hands, Elijah looked depressed. "What's wrong?" Isaac asked sympathetically. "I missed the shot. It was a great try, and you sealed the game and you intercepted the pass. Your shot allowed us to win the game. I just put my head in the way of the ball. Luckily, it went in. Come on, we won. We're champions. It was your play during the season that got us to the championship game." "I suppose so." "Not suppose. It was." "Sure," Elijah said unenthusiastically. The team celebrated with a dinner. Telling no one, Elijah left early. Scene 3. After game plan. Above the entrance to the plain, rough, gray, concrete, three-story library was a stained glass window of Christ holding the world in one hand and an open Bible in the other. At the bottom, under Christ's feet read, "Find the truth through the Lord." Elijah had always been impressed by the massive doors. They were tall, heavy, dark oak requiring a strong push to open. Elijah pushed hard. He headed toward the stairs, his destination, the third floor. 3 steps onto the third floor, he headed to the stacks at the back of the floor. "Hey, Elijah." Elijah spun toward his shouted name. Heads popped up from dark wood tables, with rows of lights shining from bars that ran from one end of the table to the other. One especially disrupted student shushed him from a nearby table. Forgot where I was. Across the library's third floor stood Isaac with an embarrassed smile. Isaac walked rapidly across to Elijah, who was just entering the stacks. Isaac motioned with a jerk of his head for Elijah to continue into the stacks. "What are you trying to do? Bring down the walls of Jericho?" Elijah said. "Biblical reference. Nicely done. Easily done. What do you want?" "So, the guys are having a party tomorrow night at the Ludal Textiles factory. Some fine young ladies will be there. There will be some communion wine to loosen and liven up the festivities. Come any time after 10, but don't be late or the finest ladies will be gone. You can score easily on some of them, especially if you tell them your father is on the council." "That's what I do. I drop my father's name, and eventually one of the lovely ladies will drop their drawers." He chuckled. Elijah frowned deeply. "So you don't approve?" Isaac said. "Well, look, there's no harm done, Besides, they want it. That's what they come for. They know what's going to happen. It's not like they expect you to become engaged. If you start to see one once in a while, and later they start to get clingy, just move on to the next one. Some of them never come again, but they're just replaced by another one. Aren't you afraid they'll talk? What? And tell everyone they are a ruined young woman. I don't think so. Besides, my family will protect me. Papa has a lot of power and powerful friends, so does her dad. He'd get you out of a bind. So what do you say? I can't. I've got a long paper due next week. He didn't. But he didn't want to be put in the category of his goody-two-shoes sisters, so it was better to just lie. Okay, suit yourself. It's going to be a killer party. There's always a couple of young ladies that are ready, willing, and very able. With a perplexed expression, he turned away. Racing through Elijah's mind were thoughts driven by hormones. Pressing up against them were voices denying his desire, remembering sermons and the words of his mother. But they quickly became tiny, muted utterances. Wait, where was it again? Ludal Textiles Factory. How do I get there? And where in the factory is it? It's at the edge of the zone, so we won't be disturbed. No one comes near the place. They're too afraid of atheist zombies. But look, I can pick you up. I don't know. I'll pick you up. We'll meet right here. People will think we're doing a study buddy session. Good for the image. Don't get scared and back out. Be here at 9. We've got some things to get and set up for the party. The ladies will start arriving at 10. How do they get out of the dorms? They have a 10 o'clock curfew. They say they're having a night vigil. Groups of the young ladies have them every Friday, so no one expects their vigil is with us. Elijah's long paper just got shorter, then suddenly vanished amid his anticipation of losing his virginity, which he sometimes wished he had rid himself of long ago. He had been carrying that weight for half a decade. His battle was not a moral one. His was a lack of opportunity, fear of failure, and fear of being turned down for a date. Fear of rejection was a driving force that he visited on others to assuage his own phobia. This was another area where Isaac had succeeded before Elijah. Worse than that, it was an area of masculinity, of virility, the essence of being a man. Elijah's resentment crept into his thoughts. He found a rationale to subdue it. He was using Isaac. He was manipulating Isaac. He saw it as a victory. Scene 4. Pre-party. Near the end of the Origin of Prayer lecture in his Wednesday afternoon class, Leonard leaned toward Elijah, who sat next to him. Elijah, we're having a pizza and prayer vigil tonight at Pizza Manger. They're having a Friday night special. Endless slices and angel hot wings. We can expect you at 8, right? We have a long night of prayer for some family and friends who are going through some rough times, and of course, prayers for the needy people in the zone. Elijah had no desire to pray for anyone in the zone. They deserved every ill that befell them. To him, they had been damned not only by the people on the Christian side of the wall, but also by God. They couldn't be redeemed. He had often thought it, but stopped saying it after a pastor had chastened him. However, he shortly continued, Sorry, I'm coming down with something, and I don't want to pass it on. Leonard leaned away. You don't look sick. It started about 20 minutes ago. Abdominal cramps. I'm afraid what might happen if I go. I'm heading to the head as soon as class ends. Within seconds, class was dismissed. I hope you're feeling better soon. We'll add you to our prayers. Thanks. To keep the deception alive, Elijah put his hand on his abdomen, screwed his face into a painful expression, rushed into the restroom, and to keep the deception alive, he moaned as he sat on the toilet. After waiting long enough for Leonard to vacate the area, he left with his hand still on his abdomen, just in case. His deceit raised no feelings of guilt. It had merely been a tool used to his advantage. The right tool for the right job. It wasn't a complete lie. He had been agonizing over the pending party all day, and he did feel a slight discomfort. However, it wasn't a moral conflict causing it. It was fear of being caught, and the aftermath, if he was. It would likely cause his father distress, and, more importantly, push his father off the planning committee. And it wasn't so much that his father would lose prestige. It was more that Elijah's future goal might be endangered. He wanted to follow in his father's rather large footprints, to be a member of the Council of Evangelical Christian Churches. In fact, he wanted to walk in them and then beyond them. Scene 5. Party. As Elijah thought about the library, The awkwardness he dreaded found him. The anxiety tingled his fingers. Elijah had options. He could phone Isaac's dorm from his dorm and leave a message that he would not be going because he was ill. That would be a recasting of the vigil prayer excuse, thereby supporting the lie. He could walk to Isaac's dorm and leave the same message. He could just not go to the library. But would Isaac just come to his dorm? He would have to hide, but that felt childish, unmanly. In fact, all those options felt cowardly. He needed to face Isaac head on and tell him he wasn't going to go because it was immoral, a sin, a violation of his Christian vows. He could put it simply, it was unchristian. And so Elijah went to the library. As he had planned, he arrived 10 minutes late, hoping Isaac would be gone. He could say he got held up and must have just missed him, a plausible lie. 10 minutes late was believable. 15 or 20 minutes late, when his dorm was at most 5 minutes from the library, would be hard to believe. Anything longer than that smelt of chickening out, and Elijah would not risk it. Little was more precious than people's perception of him, especially from popular and powerful people, of which Isaac was currently one. As he walked up the steps, he steeled himself to resist Isaac's inevitable arguments. Isaac was standing near the stacks where Elijah had made his commitment. Walking toward him, Elijah could feel his body warming. It bent his steel and would soon melt it. You can do it. You can do it. Just tell him you can't because it is wrong. Elijah, I thought you had chickened out. Crap. No was on the tip of his tongue. If Isaac hadn't brought the clucking challenge, Elijah might have had a chance, but that was an affront to his well-tuned, masculine image. He was locked in. He might have resisted if he truly believed that it wasn't fair to the ladies, that it was taking advantage of their loneliness and romantic notions, that they were trading their virginity for true love. But his morality had always been just words, not a deeply felt commitment. Plus, to Elijah, women were inferior and born to serve men. In reality, he didn't care about their feelings. The active young men in Isaac's circle had developed an argument to take the deception out of the sordid, sinful category. It's not screwing. It's just copulation. Much of the time, the reasoning would be accompanied by a smile and a chuckle. Let's go, Elijah. We've got candles to buy. Did you bring a thick blanket or two? No, you didn't tell me to. You didn't think we'd be doing it on the cold concrete, did you? We're not barbarians. He snickered. I always bring extras just in case things get real active. Are we going to do this in front of everyone? Elijah asked anxiously. Not unless you and a lady like that sort of thing. Most don't, but every once in a while there'll be some who do. But for the most part we spread out, and with only candles, no one really sees anything, although you hear a lot, especially from Brittany. She's very enthusiastic. After a while she'll start saying harder, deeper, then she'll start shouting it. The crazy thing is she doesn't know she's saying it. It's like she's possessed. One of these days, we might have to do an exorcism. Any other questions? No. Then, let's go copulate. He chuckled. Elijah was caught between fear and desire, and with every step, he could feel desire growing. Fear became an undercurrent. Scene 6. Copulating. An unused broken asphalt road led to the Ludal Textiles factory. It was said to be more than 100 years old. How much older, no one knew. However, it looked at least 100, and it could easily be imagined to be 200. Several walls of the brick and concrete block building were leaning. One front wall was a fractured, shattered pile on the ground, the totality of its decrepit resistance covered by the night. Its condition worked out well to discourage trespassers, which worked out well for the young gentlemen and ladies. Elijah couldn't see any cars as they pulled up to the building. Isaac made a quick right turn to avoid the rubble. He drove along the side of the building, past a few more sections of crumbling walls. He turned left and drove behind the building. A fleet of cars were parked haphazardly at 3 loading docks, but all with the front facing an exit, of which there were 3. How many people are going to be here? Elijah asked. People drive individually in case things don't go well, and they want to leave, or they just decide they are done, or they can't match up with the one they wanted. So some don't do it. Rarely, very rarely. After all, it's dark, and you can't see each other well. We're not really concerned about how anyone looks, anyway. If you know what I mean. Since birth control is not allowed, what if someone gets pregnant? We have someone in the zone who supplies us with protection. So far, no one has conceived. Well, that we know of. Isaac backed it into a space, got out and grabbed the bag of candles from the back seat. Let's go. You're about to have the most fun you've had in college. Isaac slid open a large door enough to get through. It squeaked, scraped, and rattled, dropping rust as it moved. A full moon mitigated the darkness. The crunch of the rust under Elijah's feet reminded him that the building had been deteriorating for some time. He wondered if the roof was stable. He was already fighting the urge to run, but too much was at stake, and his nemesis was preying on his mind. Besides, Isaac was his ride. "Where have you been?" came a voice from the dark. Elijah recognized the voice. "I see you brought a friend with you. Is that Elijah?" "Yes, he's joining our little band of outlaws," Isaac quipped. "We're going to be one lady short tonight." "I can fix that." "Thank you, Brittany." "My pleasure. And I really mean that. We all know you do." "Hey, I'm just trying to be fair." "Really fair." Isaac lit a candle and walked through the group, giving 2 candles to each young man. As he did, Elijah recognized the faces. Ryan, Cyrus, Aaron, Nate, Lucas, Randall. Another familiar face appeared. "Joyce, is it you? I never thought I'd see you here." "Yes." Surprised. "Yes. We're not always what we seem to be, are we?" She looked at Elijah. Joyce was the daughter of one of the most prominent council members. Her brother Jeffrey was not popular, nor was he sophisticated. His social skills with females could best be described as timidly awkward. His looks left much to be desired, and to top it off, he wasn't very intelligent. But he was ambitious, very ambitious. He was also sanctimoniously moral. "Come over here and sit by me," Joyce said. "How long have you been doing this?" Elijah asked. "Since I started college." "And you've never been caught?" "Obviously not. It was like a new world opened up, and I love it. All the girls in here do. There are more who would like to come, but they're just too scared. But you know what college is for. It's to learn, and I've learned a lot. Yeah, but I thought girls thought this was wrong, really wrong. Look, these pious adults have affairs. If they get caught, which is rare, they just get in front of the congregation and cry for forgiveness. They get it, and in a little while, they're back at it again. Sex and desire for some is the real Christian God. Copulate to procreate, my pastor says. I'm just leaving out the procreate part for now." A blanket dropped between Elijah and Joyce. When Elijah looked up, Isaac was holding the hand of shapely blonde and walking away. Joyce picked up the blanket and held out her hand. Elijah took it as he stood. He looked around. He pointed. "Let's go to that office. Only if you want to fight the rats for space. Just come with me. I know a really nice place." Joyce led him to a pile of tarps. She undressed in front of him. He feared he might pass out or, worse, be unable to perform or to perform too quickly. He undressed timidly. By the time he removed his pants, he was ready. He could hear Brittany expressing her pleasure more and more. He heard a few giggles from others, enjoying her enthusiasm vicariously. It was over sooner than he thought it would be. Joyce was sympathetic. "It gets better the more you do it. You're about average, which for the first time is good. There's only one monster in the group, and that's Isaac. His endurance is legendary." Without knowing it, she had just stuck a knife in Elijah's groin. Isaac was better at another thing. All in all, the night was successful for everyone, just not at the same time. A woman's voice shouted, "Where are you? Isaac, where are you?" Standing inside the sliding door, the moonlight was carving the shape of her body. Isaac stepped out of the dark. "You can't treat me like this," she said as she closed in on him. "Look, you knew what this was all about. But you said we had something special. We did, and now we don't. How can you treat people like this? I am who I am. You can accept it or not. But we're over." Tears were glistening in the moonlight as they fell. She fell to her knees. "Look, you have a lot of company. You're not the first, and you won't be the last." To Elijah, Joyce said. He put another one on the used pile. "She lasted longer than anyone. Most are one use only, wad up and throw away. He's noted for this, and no one ever turns him in and admit that they are a ruined woman. No one would marry them. Men can do it, and they are forgiven, but if a woman gets found out, they are a pariah. They'll end up as someone's abused servant. They'll have to sit in a special area of the church and be scorned every Sunday. And if they don't continue to go to church, they'll lose their job and be sent to the zone. Wow. Yeah, so much for forgiveness. For a woman, it's one sin of the flesh, and you're done. I enjoyed this, but I have to help the young lady. I comfort as many as I can. So, you and Isaac? Just one time? He's good, but too damn callous. The night rolled to a close, each parting at different times. Isaac's first question on the ride back was, "Well, what do you think? Did you like it?" "Yes. It was enjoyable, but what?" Hanging on the tip of his tongue was, "Why do you treat them like that? Just use them and toss them away." It continued, hanging them all the way to his dorm. And all the way to the dorm, Isaac regaled Elijah with his own prowess. Elijah had seen females as objects to be inferior. They were to be controlled, used, but Isaac's callous disregard was a step too far. And so, the night ended with Elijah caught in a net of confusing feelings. His desires were not only still there, they were stronger. When he struggled, it was against his own desires, and they wouldn't release him. Elijah didn't know what he would do the next time he had an opportunity to satisfy his desires. They had a hold on him, and he loathed confronting them. Each time he thought about Joyce's body, he again experienced the feel of her warm flesh, the gathering of his inflamed senses, the tenseness of his muscles, and the explosive release which took over his body and froze his mind. He desperately wanted that all-encompassing feeling again. Even though it was brief, it had captured him completely. He wanted to be thoroughly filled again, to have his senses on fire. It was a new, unexpected feeling. He ached with desire. What he shouldn't do, and shouldn't want to do, he desperately wanted to do. His battle wasn't with the immorality of it. He feared being caught. If caught, it would put his desire for prestige and power at risk. He had no idea how he would respond when he was asked to attend again. It haunted him as nothing else ever had.